Do you guys remember how we were talking about Sony kind of hinting at a PlayStation 1 Classic? I think that was at the beginning, before the summer started. I think that was back in like May. And we talked about it. They said that they were interested in it. And then that was kind of where everything ended after that. It was pretty clear, though, that the NES Classic and then the Super Nintendo Classic had a bit of an influence or an impact on the market, with Sony, of course, looking at that and saying, I guess our PlayStation 1 could maybe pull some nostalgia from people and maybe even introduce these games to a whole new generation of gamers. And it looks like that's what they're going to be doing. Last night, well, really early in the morning for some of us, at 2 a.m. Eastern, they announced that there will be a PlayStation Classic system. It's a plug-and-play system, and it is coming out this year. It's actually coming out December 3rd, and it's going to be $99.99, so basically $100. I did go out and pre-ordered it. You can pre-order it at Best Buy, Walmart, GameStop. I went by GameStop and put a pre-order on it, so we'll be unboxing it and taking it apart and everything here to check it out. I'm curious what chipset and board and everything they're using in there to see how they're putting this all together, because, of course, PlayStation 1 games are generally a bit larger than Nintendo and Super Nintendo games. That might be, by the way, why it's $100 instead of like $80, because it's possible that the flash memory in there has to be larger to hold, games that can be hundreds of megabytes large compared to, kilobytes for the NES and then, a couple megabytes here and there per game for the Super Nintendo. But let's talk a bit about this system, and we're going to talk about Microsoft's response to this, because that was actually pretty funny what they tried to do. It didn't seem to work very well, as people were more confused than anything else. And we'll go over that because it was just really funny. So the PlayStation 1 Classic, originally we found out there'd be 20 games. As of now, they did end up revealing more, by the way, during a conference and everything they had. They did reveal that 5 will be available right now that we know of, and then there are 15, I guess, are going to follow with announcements. And some of the ones they showed are pretty good. They have Final Fantasy VII in there. They have Ridge Racer Type 4, Tekken 3, Jumping Flash, and Wild Arms. So they have a little bit of everything there, but for the most part, they have mostly just a couple RPGs, a racing game, and then a fighting game with Tekken 3. Tekken 3 is, I guess, the best one that they have available on the PlayStation 1, so that's good. That's a good game to have in there. Final Fantasy VII is iconic, and then it leaves us to wonder, what can the other 15 games be? Because that's the big thing people are curious about now, is what else can they put on there? Well, I mean, 15 games, you can start picking any games from the PlayStation. The PlayStation 1 library was huge. And I'm curious about a few things, because would we be getting, I guess, multi-disc games outside of Final Fantasy VII? That's going to be interesting to see how that works at all, like if they change disc. They do have that eject button there, and apparently that is going to let you, I guess, go back to the menu and change discs and everything. So I'll be curious to see how Final Fantasy VII handles that there. I mean, maybe it'll handle it like we've seen with, the PC version and stuff, where it kind of just goes right past that. But it's going to be interesting to see that, and then you can kind of figure out, what do they want to put on there outside? I mean, I was thinking like Final Fantasy Tactics. That's a good one to put on there, right? Everyone's saying Metal Gear Solid. I would like to see that, because I'd like to see how they would handle the Psycho Mantis fight, where he reads your memory card and you have to plug the controller into the second slot and everything. There's a lot of stuff there. One thing's for sure, it doesn't look like Ape Escape will be on this, because they showed the controllers, and as you're seeing here, they are standard PlayStation 1 controllers. They're not DualShock controllers. So any games that I guess need those sticks, well, it's not going to work out. Ape Escape was one of them, so unless they, for some reason, decide to release a controller later and with a whole nother PS1 Classic, doesn't look to be the case. Looks like they had to maybe save on the controllers a bit, so they opted to go with these classic standard ones, which I'm sure are a bit cheaper because they don't have to put in the joysticks or anything like that. But I mean, seriously, there's a ton of stuff. I would even like to see them pull one of their Mega Man X games. I know we've had like the Legacy collections and everything at this point, but to see them just kind of drop a Mega Man X, whether it's an X4. X4 is probably the best one to put on there, to be honest, or I guess they could grab Mega Man 8. I mean, even the Super Nintendo Classic had, Mega Man X, and then the NES Classic, of course, had Mega Man on there as well. So it's something that I wouldn't mind seeing put on there. Now, there are a few little things to this. One, it looks like the controllers are using standard USB inputs, which is cool, because that means that I assume the controllers, maybe you could just plug and play into your PC, and I'm sure drivers and stuff, or it'll just see it as a standard gamepad. That would be kind of neat to have that just set up for your PC, because, of course, people emulate PS1 games all the time now, so why not? You can just plug in the controller and go. And two, it doesn't look like it comes with an AC adapter brick. So you're going to get your own brick. Remember when I did the Neo Geo Mini unboxing, that also did not come with a brick. It came with a cable. This one also appears to come with a cable that lets you run the cable down and plug it in. But you will need to get your own brick. They do outline a 5 volt, 1 amp. So most of us have one for cell phone use and everything, and you're probably going to need something around there. You can also order them on Amazon. Very easy to find. It's just a USB power brick that supports up to that. I mean, honestly, you might as well go 2 amp just to make sure everything's okay and you're not cutting it close. But it's weird that they wouldn't put that in there. That tells you how close they were to cutting the cost, you know, to I guess, make any kind of money on this thing. Now, I think they are making some money, but if they're not willing to put a power brick in there for $100, it kind of tells you how expensive the system is for them to make. They also had the timing set up fairly strategic from what I can tell, right? I mean, we just had the NES Online, the NES games come out with the Nintendo Online, and people were playing all these NES games online and talking about them and what they thought of them and everything. And then here comes Sony dropping the PlayStation 1 Classic, really on the eve of the Nintendo Online dropping. And then all the talk, everyone was like, PlayStation 1 Classic, wow, this is cool. It definitely took some of the focus away from that Nintendo Online. Sony is very much all about competition and just really attacking the competition with this kind of stuff. So yes, it seemed their announcement was very, very purposeful at that time. 2 a.m. Eastern, a weird time for us, but of course this could also be because of TGS and everything coming up, and they were just kind of on that time schedule. But it's not a coincidence. They could have announced it at the beginning of the week, they could have announced it at the end of the week. No, the eve of the Nintendo Online launching, they announced this. And yes, I know what you're thinking. Yeah, this is Sony copying Nintendo again. But keep in mind, Nintendo's NES and Super Nintendo Classics aren't exactly the first time we've seen plug-and-play systems. In fact, Sega's sitting over the corner like, what? We've been doing this forever. What are you guys talking about? But of course, Nintendo's classic systems definitely showed how well these things are going to sell if you have quality, which Sega has not with AT games, or at games, and very, I guess, good push and marketing behind it. They sell tons of Super Nintendo and Nintendo Classic systems, and Sony wants in on that. December 3rd, $100. Yeah, they're gonna fly off the shelf, and I really want to see what other games they can put on here, because that is the most exciting part. What games are people going to be able to experience now that maybe they missed out on back then? Seriously, there are a lot of people who weren't gaming in the mid 90s as they are now, and I look forward to them picking it up and trying it out. You won't need a memory card or anything, which was a pain back then to get, especially when there was a memory card shortage. And it comes with 2 controllers and HDMI plug-in, modern and everything. It looks like it does I guess 480p and 720p is what their spec sheet says, so we'll see how well that translates. But this system, I'm very excited to get my hands on. And of course, Microsoft couldn't be quiet. They had to try to respond. How do you respond to this? Do we announce the Xbox Original Classic? Can we do that? Well, no, I don't even think they'd be able to do that right now with flash memory. And how do you fit 20 original Xbox games that are, you know, gigabytes of space, gigs of space to jam into this one little system? Would the technology even be there? Hard to say for that price. But they decided to put a tweet out that seemed to confuse a lot of people, and we're going to talk about it a bit because it at least makes sense. But man, what a bad response to this. They should have just said nothing, but here's their tweet saying, play 500 plus classic Xbox and Xbox 360 titles on your Xbox One today, totally for free. Some of them are Xbox One X enhanced as well. Good. So wow, okay, great. So I guess they just added a ton of Xbox original and Xbox 360 games to Game Pass. I'm gonna go check them out. That's really cool. Well, no, you still have to buy them if you don't own them. What they're saying is, guys, if you have the games, they're free. You can play them. Well, that's cool. I mean, my Xbox One X right now is technically free because I already own it and I have to go buy it. No, what they're trying to say here, it's really funny because this is just a bad response. It's bad wording. If you look in the responses to this under that thread in Twitter, people were confused, they weren't really sure, and they were trying to respond to them in the nicest way possible you'd expect from PR, but it was so poorly done. They're trying to say, we don't want to sell you the game over and over again like these evil corporations with Nintendo and, you know, Sony. If you have the game, you can pop it in and it'll just work on our Xbox One or Xbox One X. They're trying to push around that they do have backwards compatibility for the most part, as they update across the board. You know, you can use an original Xbox, you can use a 360 game. As long as it is compatible, it will just work. And yeah, they do have that over the competition, absolutely. But we're talking about classic systems here. Not really talking about your which games here and there are free in your mind when, well, let's say I don't have Red Dead Redemption. Is that free for me, or no, I have to go buy it? Yeah, this was just a poorly worded, bad response, and they should have just said nothing. You know, this is clearly pointing towards that PlayStation 1 Classic system that people were raving about online, really excited for. And, well, there we are, Microsoft, who cannot respond with their own system, obviously, just saying, well, if you have it, it's free. Now the question is, could Nintendo have been holding on to something like the Nintendo 64 Classic because they got word that Sony was working on the PlayStation 1 Classic? Because while the PlayStation 1 Classic is very interesting to a lot of people, I do think if a Nintendo 64 Classic was announced with like Mario Party, Mario Kart, Smash Brothers, Mario 64, all of a sudden people would stop caring about the PlayStation 1 Classic and would be very, very interested in the Nintendo 64 Classic. Is that a possibility? I mean, I guess, but we are getting very close to the holiday season, and would it just be too late? I mean, they could do that next year. I thought if they were going to do it, they would have already announced it, but maybe they really were waiting for Sony to announce theirs so they can announce their own at TGS, Tokyo Game Show. I don't know, hard to say, but it would be really fun to see both of those systems go head-to-head at retail, right, for the holiday season. I mean, think about that. If Nintendo did show up with a Nintendo 64 Classic, we would once again be going in the holiday pitting the PlayStation 1 against the Nintendo 64 as plug-and-play systems, but still, the symbols would be on the box, the branding would be out there, and they would go head-to-head in the NPDs for December. That would be insane, and Nintendo, I hope you have that up your sleeve, because that would just be fun. Let me know what you guys think about the PlayStation 1 Classic, about Microsoft's response, and just about this whole thing with plug-and-play consoles, which appear to be taking over. It's spreading. Now Sony's in on it. We have Sega, Sony, and Nintendo. Microsoft really can't. I mean, it's just I don't think it's possible for the Xbox original Classic right now, but those three companies seem pretty much just entrenched in the plug-and-play wars, you could call it. So let me know what you think about all of this, guys, the PlayStation 1 Classic, and what games would you like to see get announced for, because we're still waiting for 15 more, and it's got to be soonish, right? I mean, December 3rd is not that far away. It's coming up quick. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you guys give this video a like if you liked it, dislike it if not, and I'll see you guys in the next video.